Good afternoon. My name is Matt Johnson. I'm an application engineer here at Allied PLM Solutions. We want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today for this session of LunchBytes. Allied PLM hosts LunchBytes once a month to explore capabilities, features, and functionality within the different Siemens PLM software products that we service. To maximize the value of your time during these half-hour sessions, we'll focus on specific topics or workflows, and we welcome your suggestions for topics of future sessions. Today we're going to look at Solid Edge interface, how we can customize it, and how we can share customization with others. We have the ability to customize the interface within Solid Edge, and once we've done so, we can share these with other users either throughout our company or wherever they might be. To avoid audio feedback and other possible distractions of hosting the teleconference, we're going to place all you in listen-only mode today, but we encourage you to email us with your questions, your comments, and any follow-up you might have during today's discussion, and we'll reply to each of these just as quickly as possible. We're going to break today's agenda up into three main categories. We're going to start by defining what's it mean when we say interface customization. What is it? What are the benefits of it? We're also going to talk about what can be customized, what are some of the most common things to customize or to edit, and how are we going to do those customizations, how are we going to do the edits, and how are we going to share those with other users. When we talk at a high level of interface customization, it's the ability to make a manipulation to the user interface within Solid Edge, or to customize it in a way that it betters our user experience. We talk about list of values that are in different seed files that Solid Edge uses, and users can edit these to suit their needs. When we install Solid Edge loads reference files that it will use for common reuse information later during runtime when the operator is using the software. These files that we'll refer to today are most likely going to be text files or XML files. The most common example of this would be the holes.txt file. Many users are already aware of this file, but we're going to show you some examples on how to modify it here in just a little bit. And Solid Edge uses the holes.txt file during the hole command to build holes and apply threads appropriately. Within these different data sets of either the text files or the XML file, Solid Edge realized that most of the information is constant and global in nature, that some users still have the need or the desire to edit these seed files to better their user experience. When we talk about benefits of doing this type of customization, it's really going to fall into two main categories, and that's going to be speed of reuse and commonality and cleanliness of files. Some of that might just be for spelling and correctness, and some of them might be to aid you in reusing common specs, nomenclatures, and so on and so forth. And I'm sure as we go through the day, the benefits will be pretty clear to you and obvious through the demonstrations. So what can be customized? In the most visually apparent way, and the way that offers the most effect on the user experience, is the ability to modify your themes. And a theme consists of your ribbon bar, your main menus, your quick access toolbar, keyboard shortcuts, and radial menus. We'll show you where those are customized and how you can copy and share these files. We'll also talk about templates in a general level. We get a lot of questions from our customers about templates. So we'll show you where these settings are and how to make some modifications to templates in general. We will look at the holes.txt file, and we'll also look at the custom XML file, which is used for the whole command as well. And then from the draft environment, we're going to look at the prop seed, the draft list, and the draft callout. Before we make modifications to any of these files, and this is going to be instructions we give to you as well, we want to always make a backup of these files. Typically, we just call the file holes.txt. We want to call it holes_old.txt. We want to keep the first few letters of the name the same, so that if we ever search for holes.txt, we know that there's a holes old there as well. So that's common amongst all us engineers here at Allied PLM, and pretty much accepted throughout the Solid Edge community. If you're renaming a backup file, just underscore it with an old. And then we also need to make sure we all are on the same page with an understanding of Windows 7's user access control. If you're not familiar with Windows 7's UAC and you've tried to modify any of these custom files in the past, you've probably felt like you were going crazy. I know I have been in the past. By default, Windows 7 UAC makes everything in the C root folder in the program file subfolder read-only. This is intentional, and it's a way to protect against viruses and to protect from making unintended edits to any program files. We do intend to make edits to program files. That's what we're going to be doing for our customization. So we need to understand that UAC does exist, how it works, and how we can work around it. There's four main options here. One is to turn off UAC. If you're a small company or work privately and UAC is turned on, you can simply turn it off. That's how all of us engineers here at Ally PLM work. As long as you understand what UAC was there for and that you are disabling it, that's how we work and how I would recommend many of you work. If you work in a larger company where that's IT controlled, you've got a couple other options. One would be to copy your files out of these protected spaces, make your edits, and then copy the files back in to their native location. The other is to move those files out of this protected space and then to leave them there and re-reference their location from Solid Edge Options file locations. And lastly, which is actually the Solid Edge recommendation, is not to install Solid Edge in the default program folder and avoid the UAC control altogether. So keep those in mind as we move forward. And now we're going to look at how do we actually create some of this customization. We're going to get into a demo and actually get into Solid Edge and edit these files. But from a high level, there's two ways to either create or edit some of this customization when we're dealing with text files and XML files. One would be to actually work within the Solid Edge user interface and save a setting. And when we save a setting, that writes the seed file, this underlying file, if we call it, for example, the holes.txt. It's being appended from Solid Edge's native interface. The other option is to open holes.txt with a text editor, edit the seed file, and the next time we launch Solid Edge, the edits in the seed file would be propagated into Solid Edge as a software at that point in time. So those are the two major ways that we can edit the files. And when we go to share them, we can simply copy paste, email, thumb drive, CD, whatever your technology is to move files around, or put them on a common drive at your company or network location, and all users can reference the same file by editing their Solid Edge Options file locations. And a topic we won't get into in detail today, but for larger installs or anybody who wants to have a higher level of control, you have the Solid Edge Administrator tool, which will publish the Options XML file, which controls all these file locations in a protected way from the Options XML file. So I'm going to jump right in and go ahead and show you some examples of what we're going to do here. And we're going to start with that top level customization of Solid Edge in the part environment. Make note that I don't have any quick access toolbar customization here. So this is a note of how I'm going to do it, and also a reminder to you, if you're not using it, you might want to add some tools you use most commonly to the quick access toolbar. As I try to add this to my toolbar, I have never created a custom theme, so Solid Edge says I'm going to create a new theme for you. I'm going to OK this and just accept theme 1. And so since you're creating your first theme, you've never created a radial menu assignment and these XML files, forgive me. So we're going to accept that and just let it create the default theme for us, new theme 1. And here's my command. And also I use inquire element quite a lot and measure different distance quite a lot. So now I've got these in my quick access toolbar. If we go under the customize, we'll verify that these are here in the same quick access toolbar. Here's the commands I added. We also have the ability to edit or change any of our keyboard mappings, our ribbon menu, and our radial menu. So on the ribbon, since I'm on the Inspect tab, let's use that for reference here. And what we're looking at here is these are all the options that are available, and this is my current setup. So on the Inspect tab, you'll note that I am on the Inspect tab. I have a 2D measure group and a 3D measure group. Here's my 2D measure group and 3D measure group. So if I wanted to replace or add an icon right in front of Smart Measure, for example, I use Inquire Element all the time, and I just want it to be more readily available, the very first icon on my menu. I'm going to go to my 3D measure tools. Here's my Inquire Element, and I want to add it under the 2D measure group. I'm going to save this to my theme and close out of here, and you'll note that now I do have my Inquire Element. So now under this customization themes, I can go back to Solid Edge default. I've lost my quick access toolbar modifications. I don't have my edits to the ribbon bar, but I can always go back to themes and change back to new theme 1, which is the theme I created. So the next question is, oh, this is great. I've created one on my machine, or a coworker has one on his machine. How do we share that with one another? We're going to go to Windows Explorer, and I've already mapped a shortcut to my app data folder. You'll note that the path here is in your user app data, which is a hidden system folder. So if you're not showing hidden system files, you'll need to do so. Roaming Unigraphics Solutions Solid Edge. And it's intentionally buried because it is a hidden system folder that's not typically modified. But within our current version of Solid Edge, in the customization folder, we'll see this new theme that we created. I'm going to open up a new Windows Explorer because on my desktop, I've received one of these customizations from another user. Here's the keyboard customization, the quick access toolbar, the radial, and the ribbon, and it's all in another folder called First Look Demo. I'm going to copy this folder and paste it into this customization folder. And now we'll note that in Solid Edge, when I go back to my drop-down for themes, I have my default, I have my theme that I created, but here's the First Look Demo theme that I copied from another user. So quickly, that's how we would customize the user interface and share that information with another user. Before we leave that topic, let me just show you a quicker way to access that folder. From Windows Explorer, in your address prompt bar, if you do a % appdata, APPDATA %, open and close with the %, it's going to take you to your roaming app data folder. Again, that's a hidden system folder. There we can quickly go to Unigraphics Solutions, Solid Edge, your current version, and customization. You'll note that once I was here, I did save this in a favorites, so I always have it mapped because I do change these customizations more regularly because I do different demos and user sets and stuff. The second thing we want to look at is templates. We get a lot of confusion sometimes on some of the options that are available for templates. So I want to take a look at the Solid Edge options, and under the Helpers tab, we have two options for templates. One is the Edit Create options, creation options, and the other is the Set the Default Templates. I want to make a note that the creation options under the Helpers tab in Solid Edge Options is the same as the Edit Creation options on the splash screen. What these do is allow us to modify the list of template files that we see on the splash screen and also under Solid Edge Application button, File New. So you'll note that when I say File New, this drop-down list of 5 templates is the same as the templates that are on my splash screen. So if you want to modify those, you can edit the creation options. And this is really just a quick pick on how to get those. You'll note that when you browse, you're seeing your typical new file dialog, and you can pick files there. The other option under Solid Edge Options Helpers tab is the Set Default Templates. Set Default Templates need to be set to tell Solid Edge when it tries to do something automatically which template to open. This would be done if we're in a part or an assembly and we say create new drawing. It needs to know which template to use. It would also be used if we're translating an IGES file and it's an assembly, and during the assembly translation it comes across to sheet metal or part file. The files that are set under this default option are the files that will be used during that translation. Last thing we do want to point out when it comes to templates is just where exactly they are. When we say File New, and we're looking at our templates here, we're really looking into our Solid Edge install location, which would be C Program File Solid Edge Current Version for most of you. And then there's a template folder. And I want to point out that this template folder is really an image of our File Open dialog, File New dialog. The General tab is the template folder by itself. The More tab is the More folder, and Quick Sheets is Quick Sheets, and Reports is Reports. So if I were to create a new folder here and call these My Templates, and I took 2 or 3 of my most favorite templates and I copied these, and I go to my template folder and paste them, now I've made some customization to my template folder, and next time I go to File New and create this, I have a My Template tab that again replicates that folder structure, and here's my most commonly used templates. So if these are commonly used templates for you, or templates you've modified for your individual work or preferences, That's a good way to keep them more organized. Just create yourself a user tab, and you can store that information there. Let's bounce back into the part environment, and I'll model up a simple block for us because we want to look at the holes command. And we want to look at the holes command because I want to show you how we can modify the holes.txt file in the custom XML file. Most common reason that we would modify the holes is for a left-handed thread or for a specific thread that's not already in the table. So if we go for a threaded hole, and let's just use a standard quarter 20. Here's a quarter 20 UNC. I'm looking for a quarter 20 left-hand threaded bolt, or I'm sorry, left-hand threaded hole, and I don't have one. So I'm going to say through the hole extent, go ahead and place this hole. And I don't have the opportunity to call this a left-handed thread. So this is where we're going to begin to take a look at some customization. Again, in our Solid Edge install folder path, program files, ST current version, we're going to go into our program folder, and I like to sort my type by text files because that's what we're looking for here. And I'll also, for the sake of our demo today, also expose XML files. I would recommend, if you wanted to take a look at what is available for customization, doing a sort in your Solid Edge program folder for text and XML documents. Each of these documents or files are these seed files that Solid Edge reads from and writes to make user customization. Specifically now, let's go to our holes.txt. You'll note that I knew we were going to be modifying it, so I made a holes_old.txt, and that's the nomenclature I would recommend you using. But let's go ahead and open up holes.txt. There's a lot of user instruction here that tells us how it's used. Specifically, it tells us holes.txt is used for any system that uses a period for delimiter. If you're using a system that uses a comma for delimiter, you'll need your ISO holes.txt, and it tells you that in that file as well. It tells us that anything that's got these double slashes is basically a comment and ignored. And then it tells us the way that this is laid out. The fields here, nominal diameter, internal, external, minor diameter, thread type, and thread family. So what we want to do is come down here and find our quarter 20 UNC, and I'm simply going to copy it and paste it in because I want the exact same bolt, but what I want to do really is create a new family here, and I want this to be a left-handed thread. And then all we're going to do at this point is save our file and bounce back to Solid Edge. And let's just modify the hole that we've already created. Notice this was the quarter 20 UNC. If we go back to properties, and we're now rereading that holes.txt file, and as I scroll up and down now, I'll find that I've added my quarter 20 left-hand thread, and that's the one that we edited into our holes.txt file. So as I apply that change, we'll now see that this is a quarter 20 left-hand thread. And the benefit of making the change here in the holes.txt file is when we do a whole call out from the draft environment, we're going to be reading the same information. Since we're on holes, there's another option I'd like to point out, and that's that we can save our settings, the most common holes we do here. And notice I don't have a quarter 20 hole here. Well, one that I can add is by simply saying, give me that threaded hole again. It's going to be an inch, and it's quarter 20 left hand. So we'll find quarter inch, and then we got left hand through hole extent. And before I place it, I'm going to save this as a quarter 20 left hand, and I'm going to say save and OK. Now from this drop-down list, I've got quarter 20. So if you've got a set of fasteners or a set of taps that you use in your company more regularly than others, and you want to propagate this file, the place that this is stored is back in your program folder in this custom file. And again, I underscored this with old because I knew I'd make modifications to it today. And if we open up custom, and I'll make a note to anybody here that's looking for a text editor, Notepad++ is a free software, and it makes editing XML files a lot cleaner because this software actually honors formatting of XML files. And I'm going to minimize all these, and you'll see now that in my custom holes, each of those saved settings is now an option in this field. So here's my quarter 20 left-hand thread. And so now we could copy and share this file with another user. All they would need to do is paste their custom XML into their Solid Edge program folder, overwrite their existing, and next time they go to place a hole, they will have these same drop-down options as you just created here. So let's bounce over to draft now. We've got a lot to cover here and just a few minutes left to do it, and I'd like to leave a little bit of time to show you some bonus material about editing the registry to make some edits. So I've got a draft that I was using earlier. And if we try to place a parts list here and select this assembly, I get my out-of-the-box parts list that needs a lot of modification. So what we ultimately end up doing is coming back into properties, and we start to modify all the different settings here. What columns do we show? How wide are the columns? What's the different sort options? And it takes a lot of time, and we tend to do this over and over again. But if we can save this setting, notice under the General tab I've got saved settings. This is very much the same as our custom is. We can either save the setting here or we can modify the file. But this particular file is our draft list.txt file. And so in this file, somebody's already saved a motorcycle chassis for me, and we can take a look at that as a text file. We're going to go to our Solid Edge install folder, into the template folder, and reports. This is where most of your text files that affect the drafting environment lay. And if we take a look at our draft list.txt, you'll see here that the configuration name of motorcycle chassis and all of its information is stored here until we come down to the next name of a saved configuration. So I can copy this information, share it with another user who can either paste it into their existing draft list.txt, and or we can share the entire file with another user. So draft list.txt is another file that you might want to share and append, because it'll make placing a parts list a lot cleaner. So I'm going to delete these balloons right now, and we'll just quickly place a new parts list. And this time, after we select our view, I want to say, give me the parts list that I just got from a coworker. It's the motorcycle chassis part list. It's already been pre-configured to our company standard, and you notice it's a lot cleaner and presents only the information that we really like to have on our drawing. So it's a really nice, clean way to do that. The other thing we can do is we can share standard callouts. So I've made some bogus ones here, but under our callout command, I've done the same thing. I've saved some callouts, and what I've done here is said common ribs. And there's a note that I put on my drawing that says common to all ribs within this pocket. So if I had a specific detail, for example, this 3mm rib, and I can say that this 3mm is common to all ribs in this pocket. Or there's some other notes that says ISO view for reference only. So I want to place that underneath an isometric view so that we know this is a reference only view. And you can save any amount of notes here. Mirrored parts, I said this is a mirror part, left hand, right hand reference, paint number, apply paint code, mask the threaded holes prior to paint. So you can see that if you've got standard notes that you need to apply for your company, you're going to want to look for draft callout.txt. As we edit this file, you'll see that here's my paint. It says apply paint, paint code, mask test, and these are all formatting options that are within that dialog until we come down to the next break, which is the edge break note. Formatting options, and then the common ribs note. So here we can share the notes. This brings all the formatting with it of font and size and color and orientation and all that, all the style information. Here's my ISO view note. So we can share the draft callout.txt file, or we can share particular notes from within this file. And last but not least, we do want to talk about the Proxy File. If you're using properties to propagate your drawing template, we often use these as file properties. I want you to note that as we go to the properties and go to file properties, we've got some of these drop-down boxes that many users have seen before but don't really know what propagates these files. And if we go to custom, there's two in here for us to look at, but we don't really know what they were. I've already made another file, and so under Solid Edge options, we talked earlier about pointing to new files with file locations. So here's my propseed file, and I want to modify this. I want to point to propseed_custom as the file that I made We're going to apply that change. And now when we go to File Properties, under the Custom tab, I made 3 new properties here. I've got a customer name that we always use, and here's a list of customers that can be defined. I'm going to add that property. There's an engineer tab, and you'll note that this one by default put Joe in for a value, but I can pick the different engineers, or I can accept Joe as the default. And also engineering project number, and it's got a list of project numbers. So here you can see where commonality and reusing data is helpful to type project numbers or use the engineering name or information like that. And I'll quickly show you how this file is written as well. Back in the Solid Edge program folder, we're going to be looking for propc.txt. So here's propc.txt, and here's propc.custom that I made. And it tells us how this convention is written. And I'll let you read this later and work through it, but you'll see that under the custom property section, I've added a customer, an engineer, and an engineering project. Here's my company names with no default, but under engineer, I've got 3 engineers, and I listed Joe as the default. That way, when I picked the engineer as the custom property, it defaulted to Joe as the user there. And then here's my part numbers. So once you save this file, and then you use file locations under Solid Edge options to point to it, we're good to go. One last bonus tip, and this is for advanced users or for IT people. I'm going to caution you about making registry edits, but there are additional fields within Solid Edge that sometimes we like to modify. So I'm going to show you an example of one of those and then show you how we make a registry edit to do just that. Let's zoom in on a dimension here and take a look at how the registry stores some values. So for prefix and suffix information, we know that we can enter a value. We go back and edit that at a later point in time. Do fracs, and this can go on, but you're storing those values. Each of those values you've inputted, you stored here. So if you wanted to create a list of values that you could share with users, you could share this registry key. Question is, where is it? And so what I will do is enter a unique text string here that I can search for. So find me 123 works pretty good. Say OK. And now when I go to my registry editor, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the HKey current user, Solid Edge current version, and do a find. And I turn off all options and only look for the data. And I'm going to look for find me 123. It's going to bring us to the value. Here's my 246x and my find me. So those are the fields that I really that I've been editing. I can modify these here by overwriting the value, or I can delete them. And next time I close and reopen Solid Edge, we have to close Solid Edge for it to reread this. It'll clean those values out. But another thing I can do is export that Hive and re-import it with some changes. So I've made some changes to that Hive that has some critical to quality symbols in there. So let's close out of Solid Edge. And let's bring it back up real quick, and I'll show you these edits. And that by using the registry to make edits, we can share some additional customization through the Solid Edge user interface that might not be in some of the seed files that we looked at today. So now if we go to modify the prefix of this file, you'll see that I've added some critical to quality symbols here. And the preview doesn't match a font, but the actual display does. So if we were to use these card symbols, you'll see that we've now saved that as a seed into the user registry. I want to thank you for your time today. I want to tell you that there's a replay of today's LunchBytes and all of our LunchBytes at www.allyplm.com. Under the Training tab, you'll find LunchBytes, and on the right-hand side, you'll find the LunchByte replays. I also want to remind you, while you're on our website, take a look at our training options. May is the last month to take advantage of our current promo. You can get a free iPad mini for select Solid Edge and NX training through the month. Solid Edge University is coming to Cincinnati June 24th through 27th. If you haven't signed up already, we encourage you to do so. If you'd like some more information or need help with the registration, feel free to give one of our application engineers a call. I want to leave you with my contact information and that of our LIPLM tech support. If you have any questions or comments, or again, any recommendations for future LunchBytes, we'd love to hear from you. Again, my name is Matt Johnson on behalf of all the application engineers here at LIPLM. Thanks for joining us today.